Thank you very much, Terrell. So I'm Jim Hook. I'm Associate Dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science here, and on behalf of Portland State, I want to welcome you. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. So Terrell said he's just a teacher. Well, my mother was just a teacher. My mother taught English at Sprague High School and South Salem High School and many other high schools. But she was teaching English at Sprague High School when I graduated there in 1976. From there I went on to the University of Washington and then eventually to Cornell where I got my PhD, and then I came back to Oregon and I've been in two roles in higher ed in Oregon. I've been on the faculty of the Oregon Graduate Institute, which the only thing that it did that the community ever understood was start Saturday Academy.
And train a lot of computer scientists.
We trained a lot of computer scientists, and I'm very proud of the legacy of talent that we recruited and that we generated in that position. And then in 2004, I came here to Portland State University, and in my current role as Associate Dean, I am looking at the pipeline of students. And part of my goal, part of my charge, is to graduate a class as diverse as the community we serve. And we're failing that miserably. So now, that's not any one person's fault or any one organization's fault, and that's one of the reasons we're coming together today, is to look at how we can conceive of the pipeline from cradle to career and address and interrupt some of the barriers to inclusion that are there. So I started talking to school administrators about computer science education in 1976 in my living room, saying to the vice principal that we really needed more computer science at Sprague High School and we should buy a computer. You know, we had a teletype that was connected to a machine in Eugene that was one of these, an HP 2000F. You know, I thought we should actually invest in a computer and that they should teach calculus in my high school and not make us drive to the south. He politely told me that I wasn't his biggest problem. And it's maybe taken me 40 years to figure out what he meant by that, and I'll come back to that later on in the talk. 40 years later, computers are everywhere. Computers are absolutely ubiquitous. Some people think of them as magic. Does this work by magic? Some people think of them as systems that they can understand. You know, it's like we're walking around and we're seeing, you know, the Roman Colosseum and the pyramids and not knowing how to build them. We should expect to understand the technology that we depend on. Voting, banking, driving, essential processes are mediated by computation. The news we get is mediated by computation. Science makes essential use of computation. So in order to fully participate in society, you need to understand computation. You need to, you know, this isn't just fluffy stuff. This isn't just for the elite or the people who are definitely going to college. Computer science is an essential skill. Basic understanding of computation is necessary to trust the outcome of an election, to assess freedom of speech, to evaluate scientific claims, and to make informed decisions about risk on a daily basis. It is necessary to effectively participate in society. It's not an optional skill. Computer science is about problem solving. And computer science is now embedded in problem solving in many domains. This is a picture that our ambassadors may recognize. This is the ME-120 class, and they're working on a project. But our mechanical engineering students are sort of given an Arduino and told to write software. go, do it. You know, that's just an expectation. Mechanical engineers now must know how to program Arduinos and write controllers. This is part of problem solving. In this case, they're building a fish tank that controls temperature and salinity. STEM disciplines use computation in problem solving, and the clarity of thought that we see infects the students. Oregon Mesa is one of the programs in my portfolio. When they rolled out into Salem, Education Northwest did a study, and we actually see improvement in the math performance of the Mesa students, even though there's no formal instruction in math in the Mesa curriculum. You know, this carries over, and this is a provable impact. Employment. Everybody knows that you have to be able to use computers in the modern workforce. Employers expect their employees to be fluent. Computational thinking and problem solving are essential skills for high-wage jobs. And almost everything we design has some computational aspect in it. Data from the Labor Department shows an incredible demand for STEM employment and for computational knowledge in the context of STEM employment. So the statistics prove this. I think, as somebody said, I've been preaching to the choir today, you probably believe these statistics, but these statistics are real and are of great significance. Computer occupations account for roughly 3/4 of the new STEM jobs in this recent period of history. Oregon is among the states that are seeing significant job growth. So this is relevant. It's relevant to our students' future. But the thesis of the talk that I want is that full engagement in society really demands essential understanding of computation. Employment's important, but this isn't only about employment. This is about being equipped to participate in society. So that point of view takes CS from an elective for a few to an equity issue. Leaving any population out of computer science denies that population full participation in society. And we are leaving people out. It's not a perfect measure, but the College Board shares the number of people who take the AP Computer Science A exam. This is last year's data. This is the gender balance of the people taking the AP CSA. Yeah, that's not 50-50. There were more women taking the AP exams overall than men. So if you look at it proportionally to the total test-taking population, it's even worse than this suggests. Participation by race and ethnicity in this same exam is also amazingly skewed. 87% of the students taking the exam were white and Asian. One of the numbers that I found fascinating when I was looking at it is you had about the same number of Asian test takers and Hispanic test takers for the AP exams as a whole. But the Asian population was 4 times as likely as the Hispanic population to take the CSA exam. So CS is not equitable. It's not being equitably distributed. So Computer Science for All is a national initiative President Obama announced it in the State of the Union message, and there was a lot of advocacy that came out of the Obama White House on the CS for All initiative. There's been a lot of work at the National Science Foundation prior to it becoming, getting this level of political sponsorship, to try and understand computer science as an equity issue and what the consequences of that are. But what we're finding is we need to change the way we think about computer science, from computer science as an enrichment opportunity to the few, to computer science as an expectation of every graduate. And that's the basis of this mindset and of the CS for All national movement. Now, obviously the Obama administration has left the White House. There is still a CS for All national movement, still a CS for All national organization. There is still support at the National Science Foundation. This isn't a particularly partisan issue. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. CS for All is not the status quo. This picture is a picture of the mechanical engineering capstone class. We put it on our website. Somebody brought it to my attention as an example of a non-welcoming picture. They were right. It's still on our website. This is one of the reasons I care, all right? I am trying to change the gender balance, the racial and ethnicity balance of the classes that we graduate from here. I want to do that by reaching out in partnership with all of you, because it's a whole pipeline that's getting us here. The status quo is CS for some. It's CS as enrichment. And we need to start thinking about how we take Oregon to CS for all. So the Oregon Digital Promise Award that's funding this meeting and has funded some of the key activities of the Computer Science Teaching Association for the last year and a half now, has been starting to look at what systemic adoption looks like. We've had a lot of really isolated adoption. We've had heroes that have gone out and done wonderful things in a school, but they haven't necessarily had the complete support of all levels of leadership. We need to start looking at systemic outcomes. The K-12 CS framework is a national guide that defines computer science in terms of core concepts. It defines core practices, key practices, and it provides pathways appropriate to grade bands so that you can actually think about systemic outcomes for a whole educational pipeline in the K-12 area. The Computer Science Playbook is one of the activities that we've initiated on the Oregon Digital Promise. That's been led by Jill Hubbard, and we'll have a breakout session on that in a little while. That is studying the national models and trying to adapt those and understand those in the context of Oregon. And we've got several pioneering faculty and schools, the trailblazer schools, Jill calls them, that have been participating in meetings in a PLC this year, funded by the Oregon Digital Promise Award. But what we need to focus on is building intentional pathways across grade bands that inspire and prepare students. We need to rethink pedagogy. We need to intentionally use pedagogical practices that welcome every student into the classroom. There are 3 national curricula that the NSF has been investing in for roughly a decade now. And one of those was developed by Joanna Good from the University of Oregon. That's Joanne. That's the Exploring Computer Science curriculum. And for me to steal her story, she was a high school teacher in the LA area. She had students of color in her math class and not in her computing class. She ended up doing a PhD on how to understand that. There's a great book that came out of that, Stuck in the Shallow End. And after trying to make an AP class inclusive and having that turn students off of computing, she hit reset and developed the Exploring Computer Science curriculum, which is now adopted in LA, in Chicago, many districts around the country. Computer Science Principles is the basis of the new AP course, and Bootstrap is a course that's basically saying let's use computation as a vector to teach algebra, and let's design a curriculum that can be taught by in-service math teachers. So these are 3 programs to watch. We need to support teachers. We need to adopt proven models of professional development that build community, that include follow-up, pay the teachers to be there, and that really change the practices in the classroom. We need to integrate computational thinking into pre-service training for all teachers, and we need to build computational confidence in all STEM educators. The number of people who run screaming from the room when their students know more about how to program the Arduino than they do is scary. Okay, we introduced Arduinos into the Mesa design competition, and the fear of the teachers was palpable. And we need to address this. We need to build computational confidence. It's okay to not know as much as the students. I had to learn that my whole life. We need to continuously improve. We need to measure things. We need to publish. We need to evaluate what we're doing. So, Oregon can lead. Oregon is a laboratory. Oregon has variance, just like the country has variance. So if we do it in Oregon, we can teach the nation. We have rural and urban populations that are concentrated into metropolitan areas and so sparse that the public health people call them frontier. We have concentrations of wealth. We have vast areas of poverty. We have majority populations, minority populations. There's a lot that can be learned. The problems of practice of bringing computer science to all Oregon are of interest to the nation. So, through my career, I've had a lot of conversations about access, diversity, these things. And this particular framing was shared with me by Lisa Grady-Willis, who's Director of Diversity and Inclusion Education and Learning here at PSU. Access is unlocking and opening the door. And maybe we've done that for computer science. Diversity is paying attention to who enters, counting, keeping score. But inclusion is going beyond that. Inclusion is allowing the presence of everybody to impact the room. And noticing when somebody's not in the room. Noticing when the absence of somebody is impacting the room. So fostering diverse and inclusive environments demands that we be conscious, that we look not just at who's in the room today, but who should be in these empty seats? How do we welcome and honor the people who should be in the empty seats and fill those seats? How do we build a truly inclusive environment? This is one of the things that I think that the Exploring Computer Science curriculum has succeeded in doing in Los Angeles. And you can go on their website and see some of the data. Joanna and Jill Hubbard, who's a teacher at Tualatin High School, and I have submitted a proposal to the National Science Foundation. We are optimistic, but we haven't heard anything. In that proposal, we are looking to expand the professional development for exploring computer science available in the state. We're looking to pilot with districts that want to commit to really going forward and getting all in. And we want to identify the problems of practice for adapting these curricula to Oregon. And we want to prioritize the people who aren't in the room. The model for me is Oregon Mesa, Math, Engineering, Science Achievement, where we target schools with criteria of what it takes, what makes you be an eligible Mesa school, and we go in and we welcome all of the students there. So getting back to the beginning, Bert Simmons' problem wasn't me. Bert Simmons' problem was the students who were checking out, the students who were going to what we called Sherwood Forest, and just chill. Bert Simmons' problem was completion. So this is where we really need to use reframing computer science, not as just a nice to have, but as a way to engage students, as a way to engage the students who are at risk for checking out with hands-on, project-based learning, solving problems that are relevant to the students. These are the techniques around which inclusive pedagogy is built. These are the techniques that we know build intrinsic motivation and identity in the students. And we know that when we do that, that leads to completion and to academic goal setting. So I think we need to start thinking of computer science education not as a nice to have, but as a strategy to engage the students, as a strategy to increase graduations, as a strategy to make education more relevant and empowering to the students. This is a Mesa team from McKay High School in Salem. McKay is a majority Hispanic high school. Every student there is eligible for free and reduced lunch. These students were given a design problem to address visual impairment, and one of their friends has macular degeneration, and they used an Arduino controller to help make something that helped their friend read. They presented that at the Mesa event. They presented that later on at, was it the Clean Tech Challenge, I think. They now have a STEM identity. They now are setting academic goals. Before they came to Mesa, they had already exceeded the academic achievements of everybody in their family. And we know that that is a completion risk. So this is the model, to me, of how we want to. So anyway, I want to thank you for listening to me. I've probably taken too much time. I wanted to invite Eric to say a few words. We were nominally supposed to coordinate, but this is our coordination.